Hello and welcome to this edition of News Today. Without delay, let's have a look at the headlines first. India launches Operation Sindoor. Government approves revised SHAKTI policy. National Scheme for Industrial Training Institute upgradation and setting up of 5 national centers of excellence for skilling approved. Department of Telecommunications issued additional security instructions for satellite internet services. Study by Ladakh's Department of Wildlife Protection has estimated 477 snow leopards in Ladakh. In a bold response to the recent terror attack in Pahalgam, India has launched Operation Sindoor, marking the largest cross-border strike on terrorist infrastructure since the Balakot airstrikes. India has firmly cited its right to respond, preempt, and deter further cross-border attacks like the one witnessed in Pahalgam. Now, let's take a closer look at what Operation Sindoor entails. This is a major military offensive targeting terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir or POK. The strikes, however, were measured, calibrated, and non-escalatory in nature. Notably, Indian forces employed niche technology weapons capable of executing high-precision strikes on selected targets. In response, Pakistan has stated that it reserves the right to respond, invoking Article 51 of the UN Charter. Let's now understand the arsenal India deployed during this operation. First up, the Scalp or Storm Shadow missile. This is an air-launched long-range cruise missile with a range of 450 kilometers and is specially designed for deep strike operations on high-value targets. Then comes the Hammer or Highly Agile Modular Munition Extended Range. It is a precision-guided standoff weapon with an effective range of 50 to 70 kilometers. Also in the mix were loitering munitions, popularly referred to as kamikaze drones. These systems hover over designated areas and either autonomously or under remote control identify and neutralize threats. Another powerful tool used was a Meteor missile, a beyond visual range air-to-air missile or BV-RAM capable of functioning in dense electronic warfare environments. And of course, the BrahMos supersonic cruise missile, a weapon that operates on the fire and forget principle, allowing it to adopt multiple flight paths on its way to the target. Now, for context, Article 51 of the United Nations Charter, which Pakistan referenced, states that the Charter does not impair the inherent right of individual or collective self-defense in the event of an armed attack against a UN member. It also urges the UN Security Council to take measures necessary to maintain international peace and security. Article 51 states that measures taken by members in the exercise of this right of self-defense shall be immediately reported to the Security Council. That concludes our detailed coverage of Operation Sindoor, a development that marks a significant shift in India's counter-terrorism stance. Moving ahead, the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs has approved the revised SHAKTI policy, aimed at streamlining coal allocation to the power sector. Now, for those unfamiliar, SHAKTI, which stands for Scheme for Harnessing and Allocating Koila Transparently in India, was originally introduced in 2017 by the Ministry of Coal. The objective? To bring transparency in coal allocation for the power sector. So what's new in this revised policy? Let's break it down. The key aim of this revision is to address the dynamic coal demands of the power sector, while also pushing for import substitution and reducing reliance on imported coal. And how exactly will this be achieved? Through a simplified allocation framework. The previous 8 categories have now been consolidated into just 2 mechanisms, making it easier for stakeholders and enhancing the ease of doing business in the power sector. First up, we have Window 1. Under this, coal linkages at notified prices will continue to be provided to thermal power plants owned by the central and state governments, including the joint ventures and subsidiaries. Then comes Window 2. This is where it gets more inclusive. All thermal power producers, whether they use domestic or imported coal, can now procure coal via auction process by paying a premium over the notified price. And here's a major shift. the removal of the mandatory power purchase agreements or PPAs under Window 2. This move is expected to encourage greater private sector participation in coal procurement. Moreover, the auction mechanism will now cater to varying durations. Coal can be procured for as little as 12 months or for as long as 25 years. This adds much needed flexibility to meet the sector's changing demands. Also, there's an environmental and logistical push. The policy gives preference to pithead power plants, promoting the establishment of greenfield thermal power projects primarily at pithead sites, that is, nearer to the coal source. Now shifting from the revised SHAKTI policy to other key reforms in the coal sector, starting with the Coal Mines Special Provisions Act of 2015, which brought in a transparent auction process, opened the door to private sector participation, and enhanced government revenue. Then came the Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Amendment Act of 2021, which introduced a composite prospecting license cum mining lease or PL cum ML. Notably, in 2020, the government allowed commercial coal mining, permitting private players to mine coal without end-use restrictions. And to keep a check on illegal activities, the Coal Mine Surveillance and Management System and the Khanan Prahari app have been implemented to strengthen monitoring of illegal mining operations. In a major push to skill development in the country, the government has approved the National Scheme for Industrial Training Institute or ITI upgradation and the setting up of 5 national centers of excellence for skilling. This ambitious initiative, announced under the Union Budget 2024-25, will be implemented as a centrally sponsored scheme. So what is the scheme all about? The aim is to transform existing ITIs into government-owned, industry-managed aspirational institutes of skills, in close partnership with state governments and the industry. Now, let's talk numbers. The scheme carries a total outlay of 60,000 crore rupees to be rolled out over 5 years. This includes a central share of 30,000 crore rupees, state share of 20,000 crore rupees, and an industry share of 10,000 crore rupees. Here's something noteworthy. 50% of the central share will be co-financed equally by the Asian Development Bank or ADB and the World Bank. Let's move to the key focus areas of the scheme. First, it involves the upgradation of 1,000 government ITIs, structured in a hub-and-spoke model with industry-aligned revamped trades or courses. Second, there will be capacity augmentation of 5 national skill training institutes, and each will house a National Center of Excellence for Skilling. And third, the scheme will adopt an industry-led Special Purpose Vehicle or SPV model for an outcome-driven implementation strategy. Now, taking a closer look at ITIs themselves. Industrial Training Institutes or ITIs have been the backbone of vocational education and training or VET in India since the 1950s, operating primarily under state governments. The responsibility for accrediting these ITIs lies with the Directorate General of Training or DGT, which is the apex VET organization under the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. As it stands today, there are approximately 15,034 ITIs functioning across the country, out of which a significant 78% are privately owned. And let's not forget the schemes already supporting these efforts: Strive, Model ITI, and Enhancing Skill Development Infrastructure in Northeastern States or ESTI, which continue to strengthen the industrial training framework. But the ITI ecosystem faces several significant challenges. One major issue is low placement rates, which reflect limited employment opportunities for graduates. Another challenge is the low social acceptance of vocational training, which affects enrollment and societal support. The ecosystem also struggles with underutilization of capacity, where infrastructure and resources are not fully leveraged. Additionally, there exists a quality gap compared to global standards, highlighting the need for improved training quality and curriculum relevance.
in a move that strengthens national security while embracing modern communication technologies. The Department of Telecommunications has issued additional security instructions for satellite internet services in India. These instructions have been rolled out under the Unified License Agreement for the provision of Global Mobile Personal Communications by Satellite or GMPCS service. Now, what exactly does this service do? Well, GMPCS licenses allow mobile communications services via satellite, especially for regions where traditional terrestrial networks just can't reach. These services are vital in remote mining areas, oil and gas sectors, military zones, and disaster-affected regions. To better understand how this works, imagine a communication network where satellite phones connect to satellite in orbit, which in turn relays signals to gateway stations on Earth. These gateways are linked to a network control center, which manages the system and connects it to the terrestrial network. Through this setup, satellite phones, cellular phones, landline phones, and even soft phones on laptops can communicate seamlessly regardless of physical infrastructure availability. Let's now look at the key security instructions issued by the ministry. To begin with, there's a clear focus on security clearance. Licensees must obtain security clearance for each gateway or hub location within India. Moving forward, localization of critical functions is also mandated. This means that the essential functionalities of the network control and monitoring center, including lawful interception facilities and routing of user data traffic, must be located within India. Next, the government has emphasized the need for service control during emergencies. So, licensees must have the ability to restrict or deny services to any subscriber or even an entire geographical area during times of hostility. Now, let's talk about special monitoring zones or SMZs. These include areas within 50 kilometers of international borders and also the exclusive economic zones extending up to 200 nautical miles. These zones have to be specifically monitored for user activity. In addition to that, there's a push for indigenous manufacturing. At least 20% of the ground segment of the satellite network is required to be indigenously manufactured within 5 years. And finally, the ministry has also highlighted the importance of regional navigation capabilities. Licensees may ensure the provisioning of NAVIC-based positioning in their own navigation system. So with these new guidelines in place, India takes a significant step forward in balancing connectivity expansion with national security priorities. A recent study conducted by Ladakh's Department of Wildlife Protection has estimated a population of 477 snow leopards in the region. This is not just a number. It firmly establishes Ladakh as a global hotspot for these majestic creatures. In fact, Ladakh holds one of the world's highest densities of snow leopard, representing a remarkable 68% of India's total snow leopard population. Now, let's talk about the key highlights of this study. The survey covered several areas across Ladakh, with the Hemis National Park, Kargil and Leh showing globally extensive densities, contributing to what is being described as one of the world's largest contiguous populations of snow leopards. But what explains this high density? There are several contributing factors. First, Ladakh offers resource-rich grasslands, coupled with a moderate climate and an abundance of prey, creating ideal conditions for the snow leopard to thrive. Second, human disturbance is relatively low. Interestingly, the study found that 61% of snow leopards in Ladakh coexist alongside human populations, a rare and significant finding. And third, the cultural fabric of Ladakh plays a big role. Communities here have a deep cultural reverence for wildlife, and there are also economic incentives from snow leopard tourism. Added to this are the effective conflict management strategies in place, making coexistence not just possible but sustainable. Now that we understand the numbers and the context, let's take a moment to know more about the snow leopard itself. Scientifically known as Panthera uncea, the snow leopard is a flagship species found across the mountainous regions of South and Central Asia, spanning 12 countries. In India, these elusive cats are found across Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and Sikkim in the western Himalayas, and also in Arunachal Pradesh in the eastern Himalayas. As far as conservation is concerned, the snow leopard is classified as vulnerable on the IUCN Red List. It is also listed in the Appendix 1 of CITES and CMS and protected under Schedule 1 of the India's Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Their natural habitat includes steep, rugged terrains with rocky outcrops and ravines, typically at elevations ranging between 3,000 to 5,000 meters. And finally, what makes them so distinct in appearance? Snow leopards have a smoky grey coat patterned with dark grey to black rosettes. They are solitary by nature and are most active during dawn and dusk. Now let's shift focus to the initiatives in place to protect this iconic species. Under the broader umbrella of snow leopard conservation initiatives, several efforts stand out. First is Project Snow Leopard India. Then comes the International Big Cat Alliance. Another major program is the Global Snow Leopard and Ecosystem Protection Program. And finally, the Bishkek Declaration 2017 and the Samarkand Resolution 2024. With Ladakh continuing to serve as a crucial habitat, this new data is not just encouraging, but also a reminder of the importance of sustained conservation efforts and the harmonious relationship between humans and wildlife in the region.
As we conclude today's main news, let's have a look at some quick updates. Quad partners Australia, India, Japan, and USA concludes Indo-Pacific Logistics Network simulation in Honolulu, Hawaii. It is an initiative that enables Quad partners to leverage shared logistics capabilities in the Indo-Pacific to support civilian response to natural disasters. A study has recorded the presence of gully landforms in 19 states and National Capital Region of Delhi. States occupying 38% of Indian territory, that is, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand, Gujarat, and Chhattisgarh, are affected by 92% of total gullied area. The Department of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Finance, invited public comments on the draft framework, India's Climate Finance Taxonomy. The Climate Finance Taxonomy is a tool to identify activities consistent with India's climate action goals and transition pathway for industry and economy. Copper deposits at Filo del Sol and Jos Maria in Argentina places it among the top 10 largest copper-producing mines in the world. Copper is a soft, malleable, and ductile metal with very high thermal and electrical conductivity. A recent study found that the atmospheric memory, not just sunlight, drives the onset and retreat of monsoons. Atmosphere stores physical information in the form of water vapor, thereby controlling the onset and withdrawal of the monsoon. A recent study highlights that climate-driven food shortage and undernourishment could affect the composition of the human gut microbiota. Decreased food availability leads to poor diets, which in turn impact gut microbial diversity. Indian naval ship INS Kilton arrived in Singapore to participate in 14th edition of International Maritime Defence Exhibition Asia 2025, which is Asia's leading naval and maritime defence event. Central Council for Research in Ayurvedic Sciences revives two rare Ayurvedic manuscripts, Dravya Ratnakara Nighantu and Dravya Namakara Nighantu. The word Nighantu in Ayurveda implies a group of drugs, synonyms, properties, and the description of part used. The New York Times won 4 Pulitzer Prizes and the New Yorker 3 for journalism in 2024. The annual Pulitzer Prize is an esteemed set of awards presented annually by Columbia University in New York City. Before we sign off, let's challenge your understanding in today's installment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you found this episode of News Today engaging. For the solutions to the quiz and to access the PDF version of News Today, remember to visit the provided links in the description.